Hello, guys, and welcome to the Fortnightly Frontier podcast with me, Myre, and over there we have Mr. Darjanator. Today we're going to be talking about persistence in the verse. I saw that face, Darch. But yes, of course, chat is still going to be there from the pre-show as well, so it's not like we can pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah,
It happened.
well, just it's just a way of saying to people on YouTube that a lot more happens on the podcast than just what you see on YouTube.
It's another example of persistence.
Oh, good segue. Unlike the motorized things, which are bad segues.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always wanted to ride one of those things, but at the same time, like...
You can't keep yourself straight on a scooter.
That's true. That's true. Anyway.
I ain't paying for your dental.
All right. Anyway, so the topic of today's podcast, or this fortnight's podcast, is persistence. You picked this topic, so what exactly do you mean by persistence, Darch, in Star Citizen?
Sure. Well, there's several ways you can look at persistence, right?
Okay.
No, I mean, but at least when people are discussing things on the forums or on Reddit, I believe that they have a slightly more narrow definition of inventory or purchased items persisting through patches instead of being wiped and stuff like that. But there's a thing that is supposed to be in game, but it's quite buggy, doesn't work like ever, and that's like being able to log out from your ship. And then when you come back into the game, you log back in where you logged out,
right, in
the ship, in your bed, instead of magically being transported to the last place you landed, which is totally immersion breaking, if you ask me, at least.
Right.
That sort of stuff, that sort of persistence going on. So even the slightest thing doesn't reset when you come in and out of the game.
Right. Yeah, that's right. So so far up until now, and in fact, right now in the PU, like as you say, like, if you were to log out or anything, like nothing persists, really. Nothing stays. But it's like down in the roadmap and like in like the greater view of the game that in the future they'll have persistence in many levels. And I think the one that you kind of stressed on there was like the bed logout and stuff like that.
Yeah. So just so when you don't have to start from a staging area every time. You just maybe drop out of Quantum, hop in your bed in your 300i, log out, and then a couple of days later log back in, and you're exactly where you left off.
Right.
Which is, something that's from a sort of a role player's point of view is something that I'm want a lot.
Right.
So, yeah.
So Junkyard in Space says that habitats do persist in game.
Habitats
right now.
are persistent. Yeah. So if you bring an object into a habitat and log out there, it will remain there, and you'll always be if you log out somewhere and if you don't leave that planet and you keep logging in and logging out, you will be coming into that same habitat every time. Sure.
Yeah, so persistence is slowly coming in, but it's not necessarily at this state where we can say that that's kind of like how it's intended to be 100%.
Definitely no.
Yeah.
Especially because once you get to a planet, you would certainly have to go through a bit of a paperwork just to get an abode where you could spawn back in.
Yeah. So, in terms of like the bed persistency you brought up earlier, so how would that affect gameplay as far as you're concerned? Like when that comes on?
Actual gameplay, probably not that much, other than being already in space, so you can just grab a mission that has you go out onto to another location, to another moon or to another planet, instead of having to, get out of your out of a hab to train to the spaceport and then outside of atmosphere, a process that can easily take 15 to 20 minutes.
Right.
So if you're a sort of player that wants to be on the move all the time, I suppose being able to log out in your ship anywhere without ever setting foot permanently on a planet or a moon
Right.
would be greatly beneficial to you. And especially if you're grinding missions,
Mm-hmm.
if you have like 1 or 2 or 3 hours a day to do that, that's easily 15 or 20 minutes extra for you to play.
Right. And of course, like when this specific persistence mechanic comes into game, obviously there will be more like overall persistence things coming in too. Like being able to bed log out isn't just gonna be an option. It's gonna have to be mandatory because like with persistence like locations will also come like player character persistence within the game and ship object persistence as well. Like how do you think that's going to affect the game in the future? Like for instance with the Aurora, once we get like proper persistence where you can sleep in the bed, log out, and then come back in the exact same place, in the future not only will that be happening client side, but on the server, if you don't use the bed and you log out standing up, then your ship will remain in space and your character will just be gormlessly standing there in space.
You know what? I think that an elegant solution to that, which would also cover accidental disconnects or accidental force disconnects, whether your power goes out or your internet goes out, or it basically just for some reason your connection to the server just doesn't work anymore.
Right.
Your your player gets sort of possessed by a rudimentary AI whose job is to, I don't know, somehow seek out the nearest place to log out, whether that is a habitat or just the bed of the ship that you're in, and then log
Right.
out like that.
That would be an interesting way of doing it, because I was thinking just the first part of it, which was like maybe like instead of just standing there, if you are in the ship, your character will go to the steering wheel and then maybe take you to like say Port Olisar or a station. What I didn't think of, which is maybe a bit of a simpler solution, is having the character walk to a bed on that ship and then log out
Yeah,
if the option is available.
especially if it's a single player ship, which would basically mean the same as you just hopping into the bed and logging out, and then ship despawns. So
Yeah.
it's not when it respawns back, it should be in the same place, right? It's just
Yeah.
while you're logged out, it's not an interactable item.
Yeah, like if you're logged out. Wait, come again with that last thought?
So the ship is, when you log out, if you're in a single player ship, or if you're the
Yes.
only person on your ship and
Yeah.
you log out in a bed, does the bed does no the bed well the bed of course, but does the ship despawn?
The ship will despawn if
So
you
it's
if it
not an
has a bed.
interactable object by other players, right? So
Yeah.
other players can't hunt you down.
Yeah, it's completely gone. But if like you're not in the bed, then somebody can come and blow up your ship, or like an NPC can come across you and destroy your ship or whatever. How do you think that's gonna like affect how people play like in the future?
Oh, it's gonna be quite a change. Any further step towards actual persistence,
Mm.
be it physical inventory or keeping the items that you buy, um, will make it a lot more of a calculated play, calculated game for players. Excuse me, this is quite
Mm.
bubbly beer. Um, just because from the beginning there will be chaos because people won't be used to it. They will be used to the gameplay of run and gun and screw the consequences. I'll just respawn,
Yeah.
and I have everything that I had. But I've been noticing something while
Mm-hmm.
playing. Some of that is already in.
Oh, like what?
If you buy a gun in a
Mm.
shop and you're wielding it while you die, gun's gone.
That's true. That's true. Because using that same mechanic, you can give people weapons as well, but it doesn't then get registered into their inventory. It's kind of like it half works.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this is a purchasable thing. I mean, and I think that things that you pay with in-game money should disappear. But on the other hand, the armor you're wearing doesn't.
Mm. I'm looking forward to that part of persistence, really, the whole physical inventory system, really, because I want to know exactly how deep they want to go with it. Will you be able to? Because obviously, from what we can see right now, you'll be able to loot people's weapons. And they mentioned in the Q&A for the new Tumbrel bike that different armor pieces will have different inventory like space or slot sizes, like just depending on which piece of gear they are. Like not even like light, medium, and heavy, but like based on how they look and what they could logically carry. Like so you'd be able to like rifle through pockets and take stuff from people. But I wonder if you will ever be able to actually loot their gear too, because where would you loot their gear and put it into? Because you can't loot somebody's chest piece and put it into something that makes sense on your person.
Yeah. So unless you get like this huge satchel that you're constantly dragging around with you, loot will have a volume and a weight. It already has a weight, but it will then also have a volume that occupies space in your inventory. So and you can't do the Chandler thing, or is it a Joy thing in Friends when he just put all the clothes he was wearing on. Just you can't keep putting.
It depends on what gear the enemy has, but maybe you can like remove your own like undersuit, and maybe you can do like a hot swap, like a like for like kind of deal. But you wouldn't be able to take both things. I think that would work. That'd be fair.
Yeah. Well, of course, yes. If you have a slot that you can equip the item that you're looking for, you should be able to. And if something's already in there, you should have the chance to swap it out.
Like Escape from Tarkov style. Yeah. So
or Dragon Age and stuff like that. Although Dragon Age did have like a huge inventory.
Yeah, I was trying to compare it with like a FPS game that has an inventory system that's physicalized already.
Yeah, that's true. It's mostly RPG games that have inventory systems.
Yeah.
In that kind of way. Or PUBG had it.
PUBG does, but is that physical? I mean, yeah, PUBG's inventory system is physicalized.
Yeah, it is. Getting a bigger backpack gets you more slots.
Yeah, and you can like have a tool
and
belt
Scum
that gives you more slots.
Scum has actually weight as well. I mean, there have been games that filled with it, and I wonder what sort of direction Star Citizen will also go into.
Yeah.
Because Scum's system actually kind of made sense. It wasn't very detailed, but it wasn't overly restrictive, even though it was quite detailed.
Yeah, it was super complex.
We should play that.
We really should, because there have been so many patches since then, and this is not Star Citizen related at all. But we so should. We so should. So going back to ships logging in and logging out, C-Dizzle in chat says that being able to log out and your ship disappearing from space sounds abusable. I asked why, and he says, let's say I'm on my way back to complete a mission and I pick up an enemy on my sensors. I can log out to keep safe. I think that's fair. I mean, like, there's a difference between that and combat logging. Because, like, let's say you see an enemy, they see you on your sensors, and then they attack you. Once they've pinged you, maybe then you can't, like, log out in your bed. Maybe there might be, like a logout timer or something with that. Maybe it could extend to being on timers.
You cannot sleep when enemies are around.
Exactly. Maybe they could extend it to being like that. But I don't think that it'll be... If they do it well, it shouldn't be able to be abused in that way. I think that bed logging out as well only works up to a certain size of ship, I believe, as well. Although I think that might just be for the Bengal.
Yeah, that could be, because a single-seater ship, I can imagine, can be dismissible.
Yeah.
It's like a spec in the grander scheme of things, but something like a 600i, that has presence. So you would notice that if it's just missing from a shipping lane or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair and all, but those ships, do have beds. So I feel like as long as every single player that's currently on that ship uses a bed and then logs out, so like there's only the captain on the ship left, then I think that it should still be doable. But otherwise, it should remain in game. And then if
And
somebody on that ship logs
what's
on, then it materializes again.
sure? And what sort of distance from any sort of entity that can perceive you do you have to be before you're allowed to log out, so you're technically not interacting with anything in game?
You mean like in order to kind of like maintain like other players' sense of immersion, or like what exactly?
Or
are you going
like
for?
Citizen mentioned, like just getting away from an enemy that's on your tail. Like, do you have to be out of their sensor range? Do they have to effectively lose all track of you before you're able to do that?
I think
So you're
that
technically in unknown space.
yeah. I mean, I think that given what they want to be doing with sensor ranges in the future and increasing them by, like quite a bit, maybe like 10 kilometers, or sorry, not 10 kilometers, even like maybe hundreds of kilometers, who knows how long range scanners will work. Maybe just visual range. Maybe if only they're flagged as being of an opposing faction, then it should be, like the case. I think that I'd be willing to suspend my disbelief if I'm playing with my guild or org and someone logs out because they need to go, rather than them being in danger because they're around friends.
Yeah. I think figuring this out is also one of the key things that are preventing this sort of thing from being implemented already.
And as Junkyard says, that there should definitely be a combat cooldown timer for, logging out if you've just been in a fight or something. And as you said as well, like you cannot log out while there are enemies nearby or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a Minecraft thing. You cannot sleep
yeah.
when enemies are nearby, or monsters, I believe. Sure. Like if you're successfully elude a member of the opposing faction or some other sort of marker that makes it not a friend. Like, how long would that have to be? Like 10 to 15 minutes or 20 minutes, like Junkyard said, seems a lot.
Yeah.
Like, having to keep cool for 10 to 15 minutes seems, especially in a video game, seems a bit long.
I think that as long as you're realistically able to like get away from them and it gives them a chance of getting to you, then it really shouldn't be longer than 1 minute 30 seconds, in my opinion. Maybe 2 minutes. I just remember I know other games where I've like tried to or like desperately wanted to log out because someone's trying to kill me or chase me down, and it's super tense even at 1 minute. Like 20 minutes is crazy. You'd be caught and you'd be killed, and it wouldn't be fun for you.
Yeah, that was I'm reminded of the last day I played EVE Online.
The last day you played Eve.
Yeah, you can imagine why it was the last day.
I'm ready to play my small violin. Go on.
I've been playing quite on and off for quite a while then, and I was accumulating monies. And foolishly, I bought the ship that I wanted without, having enough money to do anything about it in the case I died.
So no insurance, basically.
No insurance, no. Yeah. And, like I said, foolishly, my mistake, was given a mission by my organization, or whatever they're called, corporations, I believe they're called in EVE Online, to go deliver something from one of our locations to another one of our locations, but that had to go through 0 space. And I got tagged by two battleships, I believe. So I was one rank below a battleship, and there were two of them. And I kept warping between gate and gate, and warping from one system to another. But I could tell every time that happened, they were just very slightly closer to me.
Right.
And it was like 10 jumps later, they were almost on me. 10 more jumps later, they were right on me. And, we were engaged in battle. I managed to escape. And then a couple of systems later, boom, I wasn't able to reach my destination, where reinforcements were waiting, I suppose.
Did you hear
Yes.
about that? I think it's very recent in Eve. Like this group of people basically stalked this one player who had like a ship that was worth like $5,000 or something for 3 years. Basically, like getting the ins and outs of their schedule and like how their alts play and stuff like that. Until one day, all their ships were exactly where their like $5,000 ship was logged out. They logged on. They typed "Welcome back" and they blew them up. But it took them 3 years of sleuthing to do. Eve is brutal.
Wow.
Eve is
Kind of
brutal.
don't feel as bad about it anymore now.
So Junkyard goes on about to justify his 15-minute timer theory. He says that, well, with the space we have, it's not that long. If you jump into quantum travel from Crusader to ArcCorp, it's 15 minutes. So, I mean, to cut you short there, already in that case, don't allow logging out in quantum. That way...
But that's stupid.
Why?
Well,
don't just drop out of quantum, then log out.
I suppose. Or you could, do the reasonable thing, especially in bigger systems, where when quantum travel is even longer, up to 45 minutes, you start quantum travel, you log out, server sort of in the background maintains where you're supposed to be.
Okay.
40 minutes later, you log back in, and you're only 5 minutes away from your destination.
But we're talking about in the case of like running away from a fight.
Combat.
Yes,
running away from a fight.
Which is why I don't think that you'd be able to log out in quantum, just because if you have been in a fight and you go into quantum, then that combat timer can kind of elapse while you're in quantum. And some ships can be faster in quantum than others, but otherwise you are more or less just using that as a way of getting away from them.
Yeah, okay. But shouldn't you? Like before, we had the ability to just randomly activate quantum travel and just, run away into a random direction.
Sure.
Instead of having to plot a course to a very specific destination, which, as it is, really lowers the possible locations of your destination for quite a bit if you're running away. Limiting its use, in my opinion. You should be able to just randomly go in a direction and get lost forever if that's your prerogative.
I don't believe in that, because you're in a spaceship that's capable of quantum traveling and going off into a random straight line vector. I'm also in a futuristic spaceship that should be able to go, oh, they went off in that straight line vector. Would you like to chase them in that straight line vector? And
but then how do you know exactly what the direction is? You could be off by 0.1 of a degree and over a couple of million kilometers. That is hundreds of thousands of kilometers distance.
Because I'm in a video game spaceship.
Well, okay, sure. I suppose you have a scanner that tells you exactly the direction the ship quantum travel in. You could go after it, sure.
I mean, like in Elite Dangerous.
Yeah. But then, I suppose dropping out of quantum travel at a indeterminate spot between the place you set off from and your destination would... But I suppose give you an opportunity to just get away from that person.
Not quite, because if so, this is my scenario: fighting somebody.
All right.
One of them goes off into quantum travel. Then my HUD then goes, contact went into quantum in this direction. Then if I press a button, I line up in that exact direction and go. Presently, you get dropped out of quantum travel if there are asteroids in front of you, if there are ships in front of you. That should still happen if you are chasing somebody and they then drop out of quantum as well. Like so you can chase somebody.
So like dropping out of quantum creates a sort of quantum disruption bubble.
Why not? Yeah.
Well, if you're explaining it in lore terms, I suppose. Yeah.
Like, Captain, the enemy ship has left a gravitronic trail, which we can use to follow them down the quantum hole. I mean, why not?
Maybe. But we're We're very good at being tangential, aren't we? Uh, so it shouldn't be a distance type of thing that lets you log out from your enemy. It should be a time sort of thing. Like if they're approaching,
Yeah.
and they have the ability to drop out at your location, would they be arriving at your location in sort of before that sort of combat timer runs out?
I mean, we could just say that the combat timer freezes when. So let's say we're in that fight. That ship goes off into quantum. The combat timer freezes so that once I drop out of quantum, then it continues. Then if that other ship arrives where I dropped off, then they can try and pursue me again. But that timer is still 1 minute 30 seconds since the last interaction, as long as I'm not in quantum travel.
See, this is why we're not developers for Star Citizen, because this really isn't something that we'll be able to agree on or just come up with a single unifying mechanism.
This is why usually there isn't more than one person with the same kind of job description at CIG, because eventually somebody goes, I have seniority, shut up and sit down and do it my way.
But there are certain people that do, like Tony Zurovic.
He would be the person that says shut up and do it my way, though.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, usually is. Yeah.
Let me see. Junkyard in Space says, Myre, if the system is run by the UEE, their comms towers would track all traffic within that system, right? So if that person is being hunted, the player can track them via the UEE comm systems, yes? I mean...
No.
It depends.
The UEE can track them.
Exactly. The UEE can track you. And they have mentioned something called player guilds. I mean, not player guilds, NPC guilds in the past. You know, like being able to basically affiliate yourself with an NPC organization, like affiliate yourself with like the Traders Guild, or affiliate yourself with whatever it was, like the Racing Guild or something, so for better insurance for racing ships and stuff. In the Berlin CitizenCon, was it Berlin that we were at? Was it Berlin?
Never Berlin. There's
Frankfurt?
been one. There's been one in Frankfurt.
Yeah.
Yes.
So in that Frankfurt CitizenCon, CIG had a poster saying enlist at the UEE, and there was a huge list of different jobs on it. They wouldn't have something like that unless in the future you could enlist with the UEE as a NPC guild, and those may be some of the jobs you could do there. If you did that, maybe then you could then tap into the comm links. But otherwise, as a free citizen, I don't think that you would have access to that kind of information.
No, or like your guild has the ability to hack comm systems and get the information that way instead of legitimately.
Exactly.
Sure, that would happen, but if you're just a single person hunting another single person, I don't see how, unless you do it like in Star Wars and plant a tracking device on their ship, that way you will not be able to track them. I don't think a single ship should or will have the equipment necessary to do such long-range scans.
Yeah.
And if you have an Orion at that point, I don't think you'll be wasting your time hunting down single-player bounties.
Wait, an Orion?
Is it Orion?
The Orion's the giant mining ship.
Oh, no, the Orion. Was the MISC ship, the one with the particle accelerator and the telescope? Endeavor, that's the one. Yes, I keep forgetting. I keep getting my big ships mixed up.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of going off territory from the whole talk about persistence.
Oh yes, that is true.
But I like this topic. How do we get there? It was logout timers for persistence.
Oh sure. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, I suppose for YouTube, we'll just rename the thing to logout timers, I suppose. And beer. It has a good point.
And bubbly beer. Yeah. I'm kind of jealous you still have that mug, by the way. I need to go back to Etsy and see if that guy is still in business, because
it is.
Yeah,
because there's far more people. Also, if you want this one specifically, the guy's from Ukraine.
Because like I had one of those, but I had a habit of drinking coffee out of it, so the glue started to like expand and the whole thing fell apart.
Mine kind of cracked here, as you can see.
It looks good though. I mean, as long as you can still drink from it.
Oh yeah. Well, the inside is lined with a stainless steel thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it can be kept food safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, the strap around here, it's keeping it together. Otherwise, this this crack would probably be more structural than it is. I suppose I could paint it, fill the crack with paint so it'd be less visible, but
yeah, mine's no longer food safe because that gap between the metal part and the wood part is really big, but you can't get in there to clean it.
Haven't gotten food poisoning from it yet, so.
What doesn't kill you. So what other aspects of persistence haven't we covered yet? So we've covered physicalized inventories.
Yes.
We've covered logging out in beds. Those are only 2 parts of persistence.
Well, there's also the kind of sort of disruptive persistence, which is a person dying, and then there's the Apollo, isn't there? The medical ship that you're supposed to respawn at if you die, or somehow your wrecked corpse is rescued from deep space and deposited at nearby, what's it called? Maria something. An ArcCorp.
An ArcCorp? I mean, on Hurston, it's like Marie Pure of Heart or something, isn't it?
Maria Pure of Heart, yes. I don't think it's Maria. I think it's Maria Pure of Heart.
Yeah.
Yes,
Not
whatever.
Not
but
Marie.
No, not Mary, or Myre. Myre Pure of Heart.
Nope. But yeah, anyway.
Yes, that sort of thing would also have to come into place. Like, if you get defeated in battle, sure, your corpse shouldn't be destined to float among the stars for all eternity. Somehow you do get rescued and deposited in a hospital and resurrected, Mass Effect 3 style.
Right.
Or is it 2?
I think it's 2.
Right.
I think it's 2.
Okay. So yeah, and then that also ties into Death of a Spaceman, which is an amazing document, a very lengthy document, and a document written quite a long time ago with very few, if any, changes since, that everybody should be quite familiar with. A document that will get them somewhat prepared to dealing with medical issues, I suppose you want to call them.
Right. So you are to kind of like summarize it. You're talking about persistent like player damage, basically.
Yes,
right?
Player damage or maybe even death. Yes, persistent death. No coming back as a ghost.
Right.
So no haunting of your guildmates.
So yeah, in Star Citizen, if you die like and it is like an actual proper death, then of course you will just be dead forever and all your assets will go to your next of kin. But as far as injuries go, they did talk, and you mentioned before about that Death of a Spaceman thing and how like there are different stages and grades of damage, but there's also bleeding. I wonder if you log out and you're bleeding, will you continue to bleed if you don't log out in bed?
I would think that one of those things would be a caveat against logging out, if nothing else, to prevent you from soaking your bed linen with blood.
Right. So you think that if you were to log out while bleeding, you will just be the way you were as you logged out?
No, you didn't. I don't think you'd be able to log out.
Oh, right. It might just be
can't log out. Seek medical attention. You are dying.
Oh no, I already see those, like Myre, it's time to go to bed. I can't, Mom. I can't log out. The game says so. Look. I feel like
maybe you would need to, get your hands on emergency aid kit and stop the bleeding. Not necessarily fix it, but just prevent you from bleeding out. Then maybe you could log out and seek proper medical attention at a more convenient time as a player, not as a character.
But as a player, I want to stop playing, so I'm hitting Alt F4. What happens now?
I suppose you just bleed until your ship's full of blood.
So
you drown in your own blood.
Right. So you reckon that if you were to Alt F4, it will just remain like your ship would remain in game, and you would just bleed out. When you log back in, your player is dead.
Your player's dead, or you wake up. Your ship may be towed to the nearest station, and it's waiting for you. at the impound lot or something like that, and you wake up at um, it's in a hospital. It's same as if you died, I suppose.
Right. I mean, one aspect of persistence that's already in, of course, is I think that even player damage is persistent right now. It's not where they want it to be, but player and ship persistence are currently in game. In that, or ship state persistence. If your
Yeah.
ship gets damaged and you log out, or you park it at like say Grim Hex, you log back in and then retrieve it, you will retrieve a damaged ship that
Damaged
you
ship.
still
That
have
is
to
good.
repair.
Yep.
Yeah. And I believe, and I think Junkyard in Space mentioned that they do plan on doing like prosthetics and stuff in game as well.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
I wonder if they want to do volunteer prosthetics, because
Um,
getting eyes with zoom would help.
that would be interesting. That's very cyberpunk, but I like it regardless, you know? Like, but I think that how they mentioned it in the Death of a Spaceman thing is only after your player gets killed, then you would then get options to then cybernetically change your character. Because
Right,
let's say that
because let's say you actually lose an arm, then you have to get a replacement. Do you get a biological replacement, or you get a cybernetic replacement?
so they mentioned that you can get one of both, basically. Like you can get one or the other, sorry. So like
Both? Oh, damn.
just like on your shoulder. Like yeah, so if the shot that killed your character was in the arm, the game would remember that. And then you would then get the option of having a cybernetic arm to show off that the fact that your character has been around the block a couple times, or you can get an organic one. Or you can get one.
I really wanna see how it pans out. Like, do you
Right.
get different tiers of cybernetic limbs? Do you get like the lower tiers is something like Reko's leg, which is basically just a couple of pneumatic cylinders and a
Depending
couple of
on what you can
struts.
afford. Yeah.
Exactly. But
That'd be
the
cool.
top tier one is like something from Deus Ex Mankind Divided or something like that.
Yeah.
Very fancy, carbon fiber arm with a snicked blade embedded in it.
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be really cool. And very recently they showed off some concept that was so outside of my idea of what Star Citizen was going to be like. Have you seen the concept art for Microtech Citizens?
Yes.
They don't
the
have human
fashion.
skin.
Oh yeah, it's like yeah, something like out of Doctor Who, like when he goes like
Yeah.
a couple of thousand years in the future, and people have circuitry embedded in their skin, and they
Yeah,
have
they don't
like
have
carbon
human
fiber skin and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you haven't read it yet, I really suggest I hesitate to call it a comic book, because it is sort of, it's not as light in its content. It's just a graphic novel called Transmetropolitan.
Okay.
It takes place in what is believed to be New York a couple of decades in the future, and everything is super. It's sort of cyberpunky, but this story also relates a lot. Not relates. Tells goes around sort of the political aspect of what's happening in the world, which is very interesting. But it is sort of like the future is sort of like what happens when technology sort of like is let to completely run free.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
I'll have to look it up. Transmetropolitan, right?
That is the one, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because
Character is called Spider Jerusalem, which is a bald journalist with a spider tattoo on his head, and he's got one round red lens and one rectangular green lens on his camera sunglasses. The sunglasses that are able to take pictures.
yeah. I
He's
think
a
as-
journalist.
Interesting. I
It's
think as
very
far
good.
as character customization is concerned, being able to change your skin color from not only just like normal human skin colors to like just random fractal like color patterns and stuff is really different from what I would have expected Star Citizen to do.
Yeah, this is what reminded me of that, because a lot of it has to do with genetic manipulation and augmentation. It goes to the sort of lengths that where humanity is the the sole purpose of humanity's sole interest of the regular human when they meet aliens is how they'd be able to implement some of their genetic material into the humans, just so they could play around.
Okay. Like the Vandal plant in Microtech.
There we go.
Yeah.
Then the plant that kind of struck me by surprise with how fucking huge it was.
The sense of scale on those plants was just weird in general. Like,
yeah. First they showed it off, and it was like, "Oh, this is a very nice plant," and then they show off the human next to it, and it's like.
But so obviously that concept art
also the Vandal plant is definitely carnivorous.
Oh yeah, it's based on like a earth carnivorous plant, I believe somebody mentioned.
Yeah, it's the dude from Little Shop of Horrors. Feed me, Seymour. Okay. You don't know it. You don't know it.
Don't know that.
This is what I have to deal with on a daily basis, folks. Right, and Junkyard in Space thankfully brings the topic back to, the discussion back to the topic at hand, and asks how about ship and player reputations being persistent. That is definitely something that needs to happen, because now every time you log in, you go to Reco or you go to Tisha or something like that, it's basically just like meeting them for the first time. There's no reputation with mission givers. There's no reputation with factions. That is something that is immersion breaking. It defeats the purpose of long-term playing if you yourself can't make an impact in the world.
Yeah, no, you're correct with that, and it's something that we're still suffering with in Star Citizen to this day. I mean, back in like 1.0, 2.0, it was a bit different, like as far as persistence goes, like, we had some weird bits of persistence and some that we didn't really have.
Are you referring to Tessa?
Yes. Yeah. There is no mission persistence or reputation persistence, as far as I'm concerned, in Star Citizen that makes any sense at this moment. Like, in 2.6.3, like one of the last patches before we moved on to 3.0, you could do missions and where am I getting at? You could do missions in Star Citizen with like a specific like a quest giver like Eckhart, and there was a reputation system in the background you couldn't track that was still keeping tabs on what you did and how you did it, so that then you would then get extra knock-on missions from those characters. Those don't exist within the build anymore, and it kind of
think that is it was just a placeholder thing. It wasn't it had nothing to do with subsumption. It had nothing to do with the grander way of how NPCs and factions and powers will be tracked and governed in the universe. Like they were talking about how there was supposed to be a server sort of hierarchically above all the gameplay servers. There's going to be in charge of all those things. And considering how small of a system gameplay wise we had back in 2.6, I think all those things were just placeholders, just something to see how players reacted to it, how they interacted with it, what the reactions were, stuff like that, before they create a system that is based inside the grand picture, the big picture of the Star Citizen universe. Because you have to look at it from that point of view, and that is a big undertaking, just to have a single system handling everything.
Yeah, looking forward to that, really, because right now in the game, you get in there, you do missions, but there is nothing to make it feel like what you've done matters at all. There is no gradual progression to doing more and more like lucrative like delivery missions with more boxes or more pay and that kind of thing. Like one of the things from the roadmap that got removed actually was the different crate sizes, like being able to go into your ship and see all these different like sizes of crates. That was like
I think that's still in, but it's just I think that's more of an asset thing really than it is core gameplay.
So that's fair enough. You're correct with that. But that was slated for January, like 3.5, but it disappeared.
Was it? Yeah,
Yeah.
and we still have, even if you go into an outpost and fill up your ship with items from a kiosk, it's all just stacks of 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter by 0.5 meter cubes.
Exactly. And
Is it? Is it though? Can we confirm this?
What do you mean? So it's not the same like mission pickup boxes. They're bigger, but they're no like storage containers and stuff. You know, like that we've seen in concept arts and stuff. Let me see. Looking at, there were some good questions actually. I think C Dizzle says, how would people pilot smaller ships without weapon lockers if we had physicalized inventories?
That's a good point, because Chris said that you shouldn't be able to sit in a pilot seat if you're wearing full combat gear with weapons on your back. Well, if you hold F and mouse over your weapon, one of the options is drop. So, every ship comes with a weapons locker. It's called the floor.
I feel like this is actually a really good thing for balancing in the long run as well. Because let's say you're in a Gladius and you have all this firepower and you're fighting a battle over Hurston and your ship gets disabled and you crash land and you're out and you're still in the middle of this like org v org battle. You may still have a pistol, but you don't have that same amount of you don't have a rifle or like a rail gun. I mean, I think that you will still be able to take a pistol into your ship for sure, though.
Yeah, sure, because it's just strapped to your thigh,
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
But something that's on your back that interferes with you actually sitting down, that would be a different thing.
Yeah.
A thought strikes me, though. You finished Titanfall 2, right?
Yes, yeah, I did.
You
Great
did.
game.
Remember the last scene where what's the robot's name? It escapes me.
Billy.
Is it Billy? It's not Billy. But you know what happens? The head opens up.
BT, yeah?
Yeah, BT. There we go. And you get the weapon. You get a weapon, that allows you to continue with the mission.
Yeah.
How about something like exterior lockers with emergency weaponry for your ships? Like like you said, you crash your Gladius on a planet. Either you eject or you jump out after the crash, and then you just go to a panel, you punch a code in, or you somehow authenticate it. It opens up, and there you go, a rifle, and you're able to continue on foot.
Right. So Matt Sherman, while he was still working at CIG, did say he did say this wasn't going to happen, but there were a few things in the past that he did say weren't going to happen that have happened, maybe in an attempt to make things a surprise. But on the Drake Interplanetary Buccaneer, the fighter ship, if you walk around the outside, there are hatches on it that say emergency supplies, emergency this, that, the other, on a single player fighter. So I think that at least in terms of like visual assets, they exist on certain ships, and
and the Mustang also had something like that. The rework Mustang also had
that was
panels that you could sure, but it had panels you could open up and access. One of them could house a rifle or a pistol or something.
Fair enough. Yeah, but I think that as far as like ship design goes, only the Drake ships have those like external panels that say emergency like supply stuff.
Although I think any sort of military ship should have something like that.
Yeah. But I like
you
that
listening,
as an
CIG?
idea.
I want my Gladius in Squadron 42 to have an emergency rifle.
Oh man, I mean, like, why not? Like, physicalized inventories, when they come through in a couple months' time, are going to really change how the game is played. Like that. And another thing that would change greatly how the game is played also is just not being able to press Alt F4 and having to rely on players to help rescue you. Those two things are going to change the game completely. Like we have all these really cool things like service beacons and stuff for help. Nobody uses them because you can just reset and start from the beginning and get your ship back. Yeah.
I do. But I am a staunch role player that sort of relies on not using shortcuts
Yeah.
unless I have to.
Yeah.
In which case, but with the death of a spaceman and with the potential combat logging limitations, I think CIG will remove those shortcuts anyway.
Yeah. I hope so anyway. Just making sure I've caught up with chat. So Junkyard says, cargo timers are coming in 3.9. Then you will need to wait for your cargo to be loaded and unloaded. So, and there may be an option to pay them to make it faster. I mean, that's cool. That's fair enough. But that doesn't have anything to do with the size of the crates that we were talking about.
Always tip your dock worker.
Always tip your dock worker. I mean,
that is a part of a tiered progression of animations and implementations that have to do with sort of like cockpit interactions as well. Like currently, we only have buttons that perform functions, and next tier up is buttons that animate when you click on them and then they perform functions, and the last one would be actual, your hand stretching out and interacting with the button before the function is performed.
Right.
So in the same sort of train of thought, currently your ship instantly fills with the cargo you buy at an outpost. In 3.9 was it, there will be a timer because the items actually have to come from a holding area and then be transported to your ship, and that's just going to be simulated via a timer. But eventually, like we saw in 1.5 or whatever it was, the very first vestige of landing at our corp in the constellation, it was people actually using dollies or just loading your ship by hand, and it's like properly NPC animated and stuff like that.
Yeah. I wonder if we will get that, Like, I can see it, like, being slow, and I could see cargo just spawning over time, but I wonder if we'll, like, there will be that NPC thing going with it as well, even if it's not, like, properly physicalized, it's visual, it's there,
I want it to be there, and I want to watch the ballet of let's call them Argos, the tug ones that just keep going from the station hangar or dockyard towards a hull E and keep attaching
the SRVs.
Cargo, the SRVs, whatever they are. Yeah, I mean there could be something even something even different, just created specially for cargo, because the SRV is sort of like a tugboat. It's meant to push ships.
Yeah. I mean, multi-purpose.
It's a multi-purpose thing. Yeah, maybe there's something that's only for cargo boxes, something between like an SRV and a drone that we get on a Carrack or on a reclaimer. I want to watch. That would be so interesting to watch, like a huge transport ship being loaded up or unloaded.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see it. I would, but at the same time, I can just see so many people going, "Yeah, it's cool and all, but I mean, this is pushed back the release by a year or two. You know what I mean? Like, it's a bit
probably isn't
a
year. Probably not.
No, yeah, but it to me, it's cool, but it's a bit too luxurious. You know what I mean? I mean, like, it makes sense as far as a.
To me, it kind of makes sense as a way to mitigating you instantly being able to, like, you deliver a full hull E of cargo, and instantly it's unloaded from your ship, and instantly you get a hull E full of another type of cargo that you're, transporting to another destination. There needs to be some time spent to nerf the damn thing, so you're not making stacks instantly.
Yeah, and the time will be there, but I'm saying that the time can be there. That's fine. That's just like add the timer to the game code. I'm talking about the visual aspect of having NPCs going back and forth. I feel like having them do it in a way that's immersive, and like, the box the NPC carries is the box that spawns, is a bit, I don't know.
I think it's already in there. Like they are for moving again away from canned animations
Hmm.
and having NPCs actually interact with the world. That I don't think that it would be harder for them to tell an NPC to go pick up the box that just spawned there and transport it to where it's supposed to be,
Right.
rather than having it get a bespoke, like a canned animation that basically just has the NPC travel with.
Like RTSs do, they just like appear there and then that's it. They go back and forth, and we'll see.
Yeah.
I mean, I would like to see it. I'm just saying that if it's there, I hope it didn't didn't cost too much in terms of like development time and resources and that kind of thing.
But that would be in line with ultimate persistence.
Yeah, fair enough.
Because it would be easier if the object container spawned at a dock, and then you have an NPC grab the actual container and transport it to the ship before you're able to take it away.
Then you'd have to worry about NPC splines and like being able to path where things
Have you
need
not
to...
been watching Star Citizen, Inside Star Citizen, or whatever it's called these days instead of ATV? I think I'm still going to call it ATV for a while.
It is ATV, it's just,
Yeah, just because that's what I've been doing, because the subsumption thing with NPC splines is just part of a bigger system that's
Okay,
just
fine.
supposed to handle all the things.
Okay, fine. All right. Okay, next question. So this question actually has nothing to do with persistence, but I think we've kind of almost covered most persistence things
We
now.
kind of have,
We've
yeah.
been doing this for 50 minutes. Can you believe it? It's been like 10 minutes in Myre time. But so DeGunther says,
No wonder you're so late for streaming all the time, because my time is whack.
DeGunther says, question, how much persistence do you feel we can have before server-side OCS? Oh, it's actually a persistence question. Never mind.
Damn.
So how much persistence do you feel we can have before server-side OCS?
I don't think either of us are qualified to answer that question, because we have absolutely no idea what server-side OCS is going to entail.
No, I can tell you some of the things we can be getting with server-side OCS. I did on the BritizenCon panel get to interview the dev behind server-side OCS. I've forgotten his name now because like the hat's too tight. But I do remember what he said that we would be able to get with server-side OCS. He mentioned specifically that once that gets there, we'll get two things. First of all, maximum player concurrency is going to increase so much. Like we're looking at least, once server-side OCS is in, at least 150 to 200 players in a server.
Damn,
And
so 3 to 4 times.
Yeah. And then another thing, of course, is just general performance gains and stuff. So like 60 FPS almost consistently and stuff.
Yeah, sure, but isn't that sort of tied into it? Like, you increase the performance, but then you again start throttling it by adding more players into the mix.
But it's the whole Matryoshka doll thing, right? So like each like part of the verse is going to be handled by a different system. So they mentioned that even before server-side OCS comes in, what are we waiting for in terms of backend? We're waiting for server-side OCS, and there's one other thing. What's it called again? I forget.
Server meshing.
Yeah, server meshing. So of course, to get server meshing, we need server-side OCS. And if we get server-side OCS first, that means that, of course, we won't get the whole Matryoshka doll thing, but it does mean that if you had 200 people on a server and all 200 people were within the object container of, let's say, Hurston, then you would be getting like maximum frame rate. Everything will be perfect and clean and smooth. But once you start moving out, then performance will start being to what it is now today.
I don't think I think it's the other way around.
But I'm saying what the guy said.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because if everybody's together in one point, then the server doesn't have to worry about everything else. And
Oh yeah. But then you just spin up another server to cover Hearthstone, and you spin up
But
another server to handle Crusader,
that's
and that's
server
server
meshing.
meshing.
Yes,
Yeah.
but so
Oh, right. I
we
see what you mean. I
need
see what you mean.
yeah server-side OCS for server meshing. But even before we get server meshing, once we get server-side OCS, we'll be getting the increased player counts and also the performance when players are closer together. And then once we get server meshing, then we'll have the increased player count, and also then we won't get like performance tanking when people are like on opposite sides of the game map.
How does that have to deal with persistence, though?
It doesn't,
So,
but I'm just answering the question.
yeah, what sort of things? What sort of persistence
Perks what we
things
get
are?
with server-side OCS. Those are the perks I know we'll get, but as far as persistence, I
Does
don't know.
persistence actually have to deal with OCS?
I don't think so. I don't really think so.
Probably not. No,
Yeah,
it's a completely different thing. It's like server-side OCS basically, or yeah, just has to do with how performance is dealt with, via, help me out here. Depending on where people are, not what they have on them.
I was letting you stew there for a second. I was like, let's see if he does it himself. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, server-side OCS. It's coming, and it's gonna have some really cool things for it. But as far as persistence is concerned, I don't know. But I do know that some of the things that we want from that, of course, are those performance gains, and also things like persistent player housing and stuff, and that kind of stuff too.
Oh, and then you have, as soon as you have any sort of semblance of persistence, I'm sure they will start selling land plots. Well, no, I think you can already buy land plots, but be able to stake a plot.
To actually stake them and then go up to the the TDD or wherever you need to go for it. Yeah.
And I want to get a plot that has a massive cave in it, because I want everything. No, but not just a massive cave. A sinkhole that has caves branching out from it. So you have to land inside the sinkhole, and then
that'd be cool, like a secret kind of base kind of. Yeah, dude. Like once caves and stuff come in, I was skeptical as to why we would need them, but after talking to people and talking to chat and stuff about the applications of what you could do with it or what it could mean for player missions, I'm looking forward to it. You know, like they seem to know what they're doing, and it doesn't seem to be too expensive in terms of, I guess, developer time. Because they're using things
they're
like
already
that,
using existing tech. Yeah, but I think that the person most in charge of it is a big fan of Batman. Like, there's a lot of Batman fans in Star Citizen, because there was mention of a cave hidden behind a waterfall, the cave entrance hidden behind a waterfall, which is basically the Batcave.
Yeah.
And then we have the tumbril. It's not a tumbler, but it's a tumbril. And we have the Cyclone, which is basically a bat pod. And we have the blade, the Vandal blade, which is basically a bat wing.
I'm not against this. I'm not against this. You have a fan, by the way, for your background there.
Ooh,
yeah,
thank you.
It's not
I made
actually
it myself.
Yeah, it's real. I'm thinking of getting like a room divider and then like getting some of those and sticking them on, so I have that same effect and not use a green screen. I think it would work, wouldn't it?
Suppose you could do that, yeah. And then the benefit of that is also it removes reverb.
Yeah. I was thinking of, more than just looking cool. But I was thinking of getting a room divider for that. It looked really cool. Yeah. But it's not a green screen. Once upon a time, I actually used that as my green screen image.
Yeah, I removed myself from the image and Myre took a screenshot. Yeah. Yeah. And you just painted it red instead of blue.
Yeah. But I think that's everything covered, really, with persistence.
You could do, yeah. I think it's a good time to end it off for now. As you say, yes. We have a lot of things that we're waiting for. There's a couple of things already in, and we also covered a few things that nobody's really discussed when it comes to persistence. I think it was a very well-rounded discussion.
Was that round? It is
That's
now.
thick.
Okay, guys. Well, do you wanna This has been the Fortnightly Frontier podcast. I have been Myre, and over there somewhere, I guess, has been Darjanator. And in the center, as always, has been Chat as well, suffering and listening and watching us live on
and
Twitch
contributing
TV.
quite well this time around.
Yeah, it's been really cool. I really have liked this whole format because like including chat like this means we don't have to like and any questions from chat, don't be shy. This way is much more organic. I liked it today.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. You know, every couple of months we take a step further in the evolution of Fortnightly Frontier, and it shows.
Yeah. And to our listeners on SoundCloud and also our viewers on YouTube as well, thank you guys for watching and listening, and we will see you next time in the verse or something. Bye.
Bye.